And I got some special guests right now. I am so excited. They are live in the studio. They're 5 members of a brand new group here on Wright State University. They are known as the Comic Book League. But say hello, everyone.
Yay!
Yay!
Yo!
All right, but over to my right, we got President Christopher Kaus, along with his girlfriend Mindy. And then over there, in front of me, of course you guys can see it at home, so take my word for it. We got Kathy and her husband, Sam. And then we got Alex Kincaid, who's in his Captain American outfit, which, I like it.
Cool guy.
All right, so welcome to the show once again. So I got some good questions for you guys. And of course, once again, this will be done in 2 parts. What you'll do is, once I get done talking to them the first time around, then we'll go to break, play some more songs, and you'll have one last chance to call in. So just a quick reminder, I want you guys to participate at home if you have a chance to. So anyway, this is for Christopher. I need to know, for those that are at home that don't know what Comic Book League is all about, what is the Comic Book League all about?
Well, the Comic Book League is a student organization here on campus, and we've been active for about 2 semesters now. We're actually in our 2nd semester, and what it is basically it's an open forum to where people can come learn about comic book culture. We are all about appreciating comic books in every form, every aspect. We look at all sorts of things such as cosplay. We look at the history of comic books, how they're created, people that are interested in drawing. We just want to bring a bunch of people from all aspects of the comic book culture together even if they're interested in producing comic books in the future, such as myself. I'm interested in writing.
Yeah.
We're just someplace where people can come, have a good time, make friends, and just basically be safe, in an environment where people can actually hang out and not be criticized for it.
All right. Now, did you have a personal reason for starting Comic Book League? Because having to get to know you, you really love your comic books. And of course, I was surprised it took a while for a Comic Book League of sorts to actually get started on the right state. So did you have a personal goal to get one started, and how did it come about?
Yeah, actually, the way it started was actually about a year ago. I was working on a story that I wanted to produce as a comic book, and that kind of grew into, and I'm all for using classes on campus to kind of manipulate them, to structure them in the areas that you feel like you're going to actually pursue a career in later on. Yeah. And so I started turning this story into a novel because I was taking a novel introduction class, and I turned that into a story, and I tried to create my own blog, and I also was trying to get into the community of other comic book people out there, and so I actually had talked to Jesse Noble, who works here on campus. He owns the Gym City Comic Con that's coming up in April, and he actually gave me a few tickets for the convention, and he mentioned at that time, he said it would be really great if we had an organization here on campus that people could actually, represent the comic book culture. And so it kind of started with that, and we got everything just barely together in time at the end of the semester, and we had it just in time for fall of last year. And it's been growing ever since, and nothing but good things have come from it so far.
All right. Now, this is for anyone in the group to answer. Now, comic books, it has a reputation, I know, from like a higher class of people, or they seem to look down on comic books. But it has that reputation of being unintelligent storytelling for children. How come it has such a bad reputation among those that don't follow comic books? Sorry.
You want me to take this?
Go ahead, man.
Right,
anybody.
Yeah, okay. So, basically, with comic books, it can go either way. Some are intelligent, some aren't. But that can be said with any type of media, novels especially. An example would be like the Da Vinci Code, Twilight, or 50 Shades of Grey. Those are not really very, horribly intelligent stories. It's kind of just cheap entertainment that is just there. And the same thing can be said for comic books. Marvel, DC Comics, it's guys in tights beating up dudes, which is awesome. I like that. I read them all the time. However, the problem is it's not telling a extremely deep story. Some do, but some also don't. But then there are like some books like 1984 or To Kill a Mockingbird or The Old Man in the Sea. Those are really good, intelligent books. And then there are intelligent comics. Mouse especially is one of the most noted, probably in my mind, because it won a, I think it was a Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah, it's Pulitzer.
Yeah, and so that won a prize. It's basically, for those who don't know, it's a interpretation of the Holocaust, but it used cats and mice to represent the Jews and the Nazis.
Oh boy.
So it is a very, very dark tale, and it's extremely intelligent, extremely well done. Another comic is The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is an absolutely fantastic writer. He's one of my favorites. He does really, really great fantasy novels, and for those who don't know what The Sandman is, it's the story basically of a... do you want to explain this, Chris? Because you could explain it better. Basically, it's just like angel demon type.
It's more so. Sandman is just it's much more mature comic book. They just relaunched a new series Neil Gaiman's doing, but it deals with the characters of Dream and Death, and that they're brother and sister, and it's a very dark comic. It was actually written in the 80s, so it was around the time that there was a lot of political stuff going on, and this is around the time that Watchmen had come out. So if you've ever read the book like that, there's a lot of political, propaganda within it. And comic books have had political propaganda in them for, the last, 50, 60, 70 years, with Batman and Robin and Superman teaming up and selling war bonds. You also had Captain America punching out Nazis in these comic books and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, also looking at some of the history with comics, which is something that we try to do in our organization meetings. I think one of the things that deserves mentioning is The Seduction of Innocence, which was a book that was written in 1954, and that was by, I think it was Frederick Weltham. And this was a professor or a doctor who was actually looking at delinquent children. And these delinquent children were basically, the connection that he found was that they all read comic books. And so around that time, that's when they implemented in the comic book code, which basically said this comic book would not have, any adult material in it, any violence. And this was why you don't see a whole lot of comic books from around that time period, because parents were taking them away from their children, they were throwing them away. So,
yeah.
To go back to your question, I think it kind of shows that we, even though have had a history of comic books being for children and for adults, there are plenty of them out there for different mature readers.
Yeah.
But there are still some out there for children, for fun purposes. But they can definitely be used to teach with.
All right, that's a good explanation right there. Now, I've always noticed that for many years, the comic book culture, like cosplay and people dressing up, that was always popular in California or even some bigger cities. I don't see much of that. For the longest time, I didn't see much of that in Dayton, Ohio, and especially Xenia, Ohio, where there's no comic books stores and or such leagues I know of. Slowly but surely, it is getting more popular. I mean, we have a club on campus now for comic books. How is it at, I guess what I want to know is, why is comic books and the culture surrounding it so popular right now, or growing in popularity?
I'll take that.
Go ahead.
Cool.
Go ahead, Alex.
I have too much to say sometimes. That's the problem. Basically, nowadays, you can throw a dart at any movie, blockbuster type screening place, because I can word properly. Movie theater. You can throw a dart at what's showing, and you could probably hit a comic book type movie. Just to list off a few. Wanted. That was some people don't know that. It was based off a comic book rather loosely, but it was still based off one. Mm-hmm. 300. Any Marvel or DC film. Batman, Captain America are probably one of the prominent ones that you've probably seen. Walking Dead is a TV show that is now extremely popular. Watchmen, Hellboy, list goes on. And basically, it has now come to the point where comic books are to the point where you can basically just go to a movie theater and see something that's related to comic books, which makes that comic book is a kind of like a stepping stone for stories now. Movies are now not, some are independent, and there's a whole genre for independent films, but a lot of them are being made for from comic books. And so a lot of these ideas are coming from comic books because you've got the whole story storyboarded for you, which is a huge process for movie makers. And so to have that done for you already, you can really get a solid movie or TV show. And when it's done right, you get Walking Dead. When it's done wrong, you get something like World War Z, which I personally didn't like.
Hey, I like that movie.
But I mean, it's to each his own, I guess.
Yeah. I always thought World War Z was based off of a book, though.
I thought it was. Well, then maybe I'm wrong. I was. Someone told me that it was based off a comic book.
I'm sure there has been an adaptation.
There's
somewhere.
maybe. Yeah. I may be wrong, but I was just. It's kind of sad how comic books are a stepping stone and not really as prevalent as they should be. However, they have gone from something that a bunch of nerds in a basement, which is the stereotype.
That's a stereotype.
To something that is like, it's now cool to wear a comic book sweatshirt. I get a ton of compliments for my Captain America sweatshirt, and I'm pretty sure I used to get bullied for being someone who really liked Spider-Man. So I mean, it's now become more acceptable. I think nerds have now inherited the world where you can go to someplace like a Comic-Con and actually be surrounded by people who love the same interests as you. So I think that's my take on why comic books have become so much more popular.
Well, there's also the idea that the comic books are really very adaptable to any group at all. It's like, it's not just a specific genre of books. It's a whole medium. It's very much like books. It's just a different form. Like music, it's not just like, oh, music used to be not very cool, and now it's kind of cool. Music has always been adapting, and people have adapted with it. There are just, as has been said, it's not just Spider-Man and Superman fighting in the streets. There are tons of different kinds of comic books out there. I just recently read one actually called Fun Home, and it was a family drama, and it was about a girl who grew up in a home that was not very tender. If
That's fine.
That want to say.
Yeah, very tender-like. Okay.
It's
Yeah,
not
so-
something where it would be Men in Tights type deal.
No, it wasn't a humor. It had funny parts, but it was just any medium where it can branch off, and not everyone likes rap music, but they can dig the jazz. They can dig on the jazz. So really, anyone could get into it if they just give it a shot.
All right. Well, that's a good explanation. And I do agree that I think when they start making more movies from comic book stories and they did so well at the box office, I think that played a role in it also. And of course, G4, I think it helped also, although they did go out of business. So, but we got the internet, so you can always watch special videos on the internet of Comic-Con conventions. I think it's great. So yeah, just people are more aware of it now. Now that helped me get more aware of it. Although I was into it when I was a kid, but in my young adult life, I noticed it from the internet and just seeing it. It's evolved. It's evolved to my liking. So I agree.
Yeah, going off Kathy's...
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Going off Kathy's music metaphor, it's like some of these guys who create the comics are becoming rock stars in a way. Like Hollywood has done a lot by putting Stan Lee in the cameo roles, and these Comic-Cons are becoming huge events that are covered by mainstream media suddenly, and the attention is, I think it's a good stepping stone for people to, if they're more curious, wonder who is that Stan Lee guy, and what are these Comic-Cons about, and maybe attend one. And these events are also where they announce the big films, but also if you can go for that, or you can go for seeing what vendors are selling comic-wise. So I think it's a really good thing.
All right. Yeah, that was Sam speaking just now. So yeah, we got, like I said, we got 5 people in here. But now I gotta know next, and I know there's like a niche group. The people that do follow comic books closely, there's like a niche group in the Dayton, Ohio area, and I guess Ohio in general. I've noticed that I guess it's been like this all my life, like in the news, the newspaper. I guess in your high school, the culture's been dominated by sports. Like it's always about sports, or it's always about politics, like who's run for governor. You don't hear much about fantasy culture and fun cultures like comic book leagues. What I want to know is, do you feel like in the past, have you been in a newspaper, any media you can think of, you've been treated fairly by Like, have you been represented fairly? Can you think of a time that maybe you were made fun of in the media?
Apparently, I'm having to answer this
I
question.
talk
Yeah, go ahead,
way
Chris.
too much, man. You're the president.
I think Chris can answer this. Have you been made? Yeah, have you been represented properly by the media in Dayton, Ohio?
First off, I'd like to say I hate sports.
I knew it.
Ooh, shots
Okay, I'm gonna have to hide my face around campus for a while.
They can't see it right now, so it's okay.
No, I like sports. I appreciate sports, and just like that, I think there's a group, for comic books, and I think that the way it's been pursued so far, how people in this area represent comic books, I think it's a very subculture, is
Yeah.
what it is. And although we don't have huge, massive funding, I think that funding that people put towards sports is actually, like we were talking about, actually is going towards the movies. Not so much that these movies haven't been around for a while, but more so because now we have the technology to do it right. There were tons of comic book movies that were out in the 80s and stuff. There was an old Captain America, which was hilarious if you ever watch it. But I think that funding in that genre is, it's a very, it's a closed group in some sense. And that's kind of, with like our comic book league, we can bring people out of their shells, to actually interact with other people that are comic book interested. But I mean, I've done some dealings with, local comic shops, which we have some really great ones here in the area. I mean, from here down to like downtown Dayton, you could probably at least find 5 different comic book shops. And it's not like there's anything keeping from people going to these shops. It's just that, it's like, it's a book. It's like any other story that you would read. I mean, if you enjoy Harry Potter, I mean, it's almost the same thing, is that there's stories that you read, and then there you have friends that read that too, but you don't sit and dwell, well, some people do, but you don't really sit down and you don't dwell like on these things throughout the day, like sports, oh, hey, did you see the game last night? It's not as, I guess, viewable, as easy accessible as it is to watch a football game every Sunday. But it's like, for me, every Wednesday is brand new comic book day. I get to go into the shop, and actually, talk with my comic book comic shop owner, and have a great discussion, about like what's new, what's coming out. And I think, the internet, is the place to go. For these comic book discussions and stuff. So, although the internet I don't think is the greatest place, because people are a little bit more, I guess, lucrative about what they say. They're a little bit more easy to sit back and, slam somebody's work that, they've been doing on a certain comic book, rather than actually sitting down in a room one-on-one with somebody that does appreciate somebody's work. So, but that's an entirely different discussion. So I think that comic books are definitely growing. I don't think it's a coincidence that these movies are making millions and billions of dollars, becoming, #1 hits in the country. And I think, it's just now, that it's becoming more prevalent because we do have the movies, that it is letting other people access it even more so, as if it were a sports event that was being watched on TV. So.
That's an excellent explanation, man. That is great. Now I got quite. This is for all 5 of you to answer, or try to answer. If you were a superhero, what would you call yourself, and what superpowers would you have?
Okay. Well,
Alex first.
All right, I'll go first. But really quickly, I'm just gonna plug in my Twitter so
Go ahead.
Everyone knows where. So if you want to ask a question, you can tweet at me at CBL_Revan REVAN, or tweet and put the hashtag WSU Comics. And I'll see if we can get the question on the show. But
Not just
the question,
questions, you can tell us we're wrong.
it's not like it doesn't have to,
criticism.
yeah. Well, you could say we're ugly, even though you can't see us. Maybe I
with
smell
your
bad.
Kathy has an awesome voice.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly. Anything. But the question was, what kind of superhero would I be, or what was it again?
If you were,
Sorry.
yeah, if you were a superhero, what would you call yourself, and what are your powers?
Man, that is really tricky. I don't know if I'd have a name, because if it were in the literal sense of here and now, where there aren't many, like, I wouldn't have to really fight crime, I'd probably like have super smarts, so I can really, like, what was the guy from Watchmen? The guy, what's his name was Adrian, I think.
Ozymandias.
Yeah, well, he was basically a guy who was a genius. That way I could, if I wanted to, build whatever, be the Tony Stark, or I could just graduate with an A and get my degree, and then maybe do good stuff for humanity. I don't know if I'd be a traditional crime-fighting human.
So you would be the superhero with no name that was really, really smart.
Yeah, probably. I think that would be appealing to me. For
You would just be your own hero, basically.
basically, like, I'm so smart. No one has to tell me anything because I'm always right.
The smartest man in the world.
Yeah, there you go. I would totally be into that. Save the human race
Right.
from AIDS or something. I don't know.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, man, you totally stole mine, Alexander. I was gonna model mine after Tony Stark. I mean, he's my hero. I've got Iron Man as my desktop background on my computer for God knows how long.
Nerd.
I know. It's at work too for all my coworkers to proudly see. But anyway.
Proudly.
Yes. You gotta own it, man. Anyway. And for powers, I guess, yeah, I love the high-tech gadgetry stuff. We're both studying electrical engineering, and so we like the gadgets and stuff. And flying is just, man, teleportation. I just don't like driving.
So many things that you could do with like electronics,
Right?
technology.
Yeah, so getting around any way I could do that faster, more awesomely.
Imagine
pretty
being
cool.
the guy like, oh yeah, I built basically a spaceship that would be able for us to go in like light years out.
Right.
Like you could do that because you're so smart. Like, oh, cool guy.
Hopefully you'd sell your idea better than that if you
Well,
were
I
really
wouldn't
smart.
be. Hey man, I made a ship and it goes far. So hey, give me money, right?
Right.
What were you, Kathy?
My name would be Everyone Girl.
Okay.
I like where this is going.
Because I would be the people for the people. I would be the ultimate, hey guys, I'm your friend, superhero, not above you, but with you, on par, equal,
Okay.
all that cool stuff. And my superpower would be healing. And I could heal physical stuff and mental stuff and emotional stuff.
All right.
You know, and make everyone feel
that could permanently
cool.
Everyone girl, and she heals everything.
Ultimate
That's a good power.
Just say it.
All right. Now we got Christopher and Mindy.
Oh, no.
I want Batman superpowers.
All right. So you just
You
become the
mean
new
be rich?
Batman.
You just want to be rich.
I just like ticked off everybody out there that knows anything about Batman. Actually, I think I would be known as Congressman, and I would fix everything about the government. So we'll just leave it as that.
You kill everyone?
Really a super villain?
Oh, good one. Where's
gonna
my?
raise your taxes.
I wish I had a drum set for that.
Ouch.
All right, and of course, Mindy would be your assistant. She'd be the first lady then.
That's right, my
That-
secretary.
that's good. All right.
I turned that job down.
Oh, she turned it down. Uh oh.